Welcome to the Zach On Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Hughes. Today's episode is entitled, The Difference Between a Good Servant Leader and a Great One. Can you be a people-first servant leader and still have the guts to make the tough calls when you have to? Yes, but it's really hard. Those of you who have been following me for a long time know that I'm all about servant leadership. You know the type. These leaders make work fun. They help people grow in their careers. They build a great culture. They take the blame and give the credit. They make people feel safe. They are inspirational and visionary. They don't micromanage, but they empower. These are the building blocks of a great leader. Some of you listening to this right now are screaming yes, because you are fully bought in to this ideal model of leadership. I am too. The world still has too much of a shortage of this kind of leader. I've made it my mission to be this kind of leader and to develop as many as I can. In my experience, this style of leadership solves a lot of problems. It also avoids a ton of problems that simply never materialize in this kind of environment. However, it's not 100% foolproof. There are still plenty of situations that can sabotage this leadership style and environment. There are inherent vulnerabilities in the model and they need to be mitigated. In the rest of this episode, I'll share what I've learned. Collectively, these situations and countermeasures are necessary for a servant leader to reach the highest level of proficiency. The underperformer with a great attitude. Servant leaders love to hire for culture fit, attitude, and aptitude. This is critical and important. Frankly, it usually works out just fine, but sometimes it doesn't. Occasionally, you'll have a team member who is great to be around, but just isn't producing like their peers. You might not even realize it right away because you aren't a micromanager, but eventually it becomes evident. Like a good servant leader, you look within. You provide more support, training, coaching, and guidance. You find yourself spending a crazy amount of time working on this one person. You want to make the best of it because you tend to see the best in people. You give second, third, and fourth chances. If you're honest with yourself, there's improvement, but it's just not enough. It's time to phone some friends. Involve your boss, your HR partner, and get some help addressing the situation. The best servant leaders recognize this early and ask for help early. Most wait too long and the whole team suffers. The high-performing chaos machine. Sometimes servant leaders have extremely talented team members who get a lot done but leave a wake of chaos behind them. As a protector of the culture, you are quite attuned to this problem, but you are still sometimes frozen on what exactly to do about it. You secretly hope it just goes away, but it doesn't. Again, involve your boss and your HR partner. Here's a good motivator for me. Quote, culture is defined by the worst behavior tolerated, unquote. John Amach. We act like that's not true. We think we will be remembered and appreciated by all the good things we do. But in our customers' and our team members' experience, it's what we tolerate that defines us. Get after it. Handling bad news. Bad news is a fact of life. How we handle it as leaders makes a huge difference. Let's just say that someone above you made an unpopular decision, such as a reorg, a budget cut, or policy change. You didn't have anything to do with it. On face value, it just seems like a bad decision. As a leader, how do you handle this with your team? Servant leaders have a tendency to commiserate with their teams. They are transparent to a fault. They process their emotions in real time in front of their team. This can have the impact of strengthening the bond between the leader and their team, but what about the rest of the company? How do you move forward from there? Do you resist or grumble? Neither of those are good options. Morale is in the tank, and you as a leader become powerless. I've learned to privately make peace with unpopular decisions. I'm not a yes man, so this actually takes a lot of work for me. I'll reach out to my boss or other parties to get new perspectives on the matter. I'll fight to understand it. I'll grieve if I must. Then I move on. Then and only then am I ready to lead my team. Predictably, they will react like I did, but now I am equipped to help them navigate the change and adapt accordingly. That's my list. I could probably go on, but those are the big ones. To be clear, I am in no way taking my foot off the gas as servant leadership. That's my native tongue. That's the best way to lead. But I've been doing this long enough to see good leaders hit massive speed bumps along the way. I've run into each of these scenarios myself and have learned the hard and slow way. But now that I've learned, I do my best to equip leaders to handle these difficult matters. When handled with skill, servant leaders are unstoppable. That's all for this week's episode of the Zach on Leadership Podcast. Thanks for listening.